Well, hello and welcome. This is Tanya Biglow, your philosophical physicist, coming to you live in full effect one more time. And we have some great training that we're going to go through today. In today's subject, we're going to talk about the root of irritation in learning and why certain situations really make you mad. Okay, so I'm not going to be with you too long. We're going to make this quick, although this is a full training that we actually go through, but I'm going to make this short and sweet today. So again, the root of irritation in learning. So let me ask you a question. Have you ever gone to school, whether it was a private school, a public school? And in that, did you go to elementary school? Have you gone to high school? And maybe you went on to complete or at least try some form of higher education. Well, in that, do you remember ever having an instructor that you really, really liked? Like you really just in love the way that they engaged with the class, or maybe you just liked the subject altogether, right? And then maybe you had one teacher, one subject that was just repulsive to you. You dreaded going to that class. You dreaded having to pull out that book or being quizzed in that subject. Well, if that's you, there's a reason why. You see, everyone has a specific learning style. There's actually 7 altogether. And for some of us, we're able to connect in all of those areas, and it really depends on the subject matter that we're talking about. Or in some instances, we're just like, I just don't even want to be bothered. So today, we're going to go over those 7 learning styles. So in that way, you'll be able to know why you like a certain thing and why some things are just so irritating to you. Now, in understanding the 7 types of styles of learning, there are 3 aspects of each of those learning styles. And just for the sake of time, we're not going to go over all 3 of the aspects. But the aspects are the method of action, like what it is that you do as that type of a learner, the common phrases that they normally share or say in that learning style, and the actual learning techniques, right? What helps that person really get involved and intrigued with what it is that they do and how they actually learn. So we're going to get started with the 7 learning styles, and I want you to know that there's not one that's better than the other, one that's higher than the other, none of that. This is just the flow that we picked, okay? So let's get started. The first of the 7 learning styles that we're going to talk about today is visual. You prefer using pictures or images in your learning style. So you're the type of person who rarely gets lost. You have a very good sense of your surroundings and where you are and how to travel and how to move. In your conversation or in your learning, you are able to visualize or picture, if you will, whatever the conversation entails. You have a very keen sense of looking at things and crafting and generating that picture of it. And one of the phrases that you tend to say on a regular basis is, I see what you're saying, right? So that's a visual learner. And then we have auditory learners. You prefer sound or music. Have you ever seen someone who just has to have something playing in the background, whether it's music or it's some type of constant sound, those people who love going to bed with music or watching TV, you're an auditory learner. So that stimulates you best. You have a good sense of pitch and rhythm. You can typically, most of the time, these individuals can sing very well. They can do those runs, and they just have a very key ear for sound and music, right? So those are individuals, those are auditory learners. They learn best that way, okay? So then we also have our verbal or our linguistic learners. You prefer both speech and in writing, you prefer to use words, whether you're writing or whether you are speaking, right? So have you ever met like a wordologist, someone who just has a vast vocabulary? They love words. And most authors, people who write multiple books, these are individuals who learn or who are verbal learners. Some of the phrases or phrase that you may hear them say is, in other words, because they always have a sense of words and what it is that they're saying, right? So that's verbal. And then we have our physical or our kinesthetic learners, right? So they are the ones who love using their hands, right? They have all these real big physical gestures that they use. You learn better hands-on, right? You're like, well, let me just get in there and play with it. So that will help you get connected with it. You love touching your food. You like touching things. Those are kinesthetic learners, right? So kinesthetic. So then we also have our logical or our mathematical learners. You prefer reasoning and systems. Everything has to have a certain place. Like in the morning when you get up, you do bam, 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 bam. Like, and you never deter from that. Everything has to be very rhythmic, very systematic. You're very good with connecting the dots very quickly. You can see patterns, in everything. Like, you can see a face in something that, someone else would just like, it's just a bunch of feathers, or is it just a bunch of dots, right? You love strategy games. You love being able to figure things out. You love having a scientific approach to almost everything, right? So those are our logical thinkers. And then we have our social or our interpersonal people. Those are individuals who are the life of the party. They love being in groups. They typically have a whole lot of people always coming to their house. Have you ever gone to someone's house and they always have company? Someone's always there. They're always entertaining. These are also individuals who, when they have these guests or when they're in a social crowd, a lot of people tend to ask their advice for things. So these are typically your counselors or your mentors. So those are our social learners. And then we also have I want to call them the solitary or the interpersonal. Those are our introverts. Those people who can do without the crowd. They prefer self-study. You love being quiet. You're a very private person. If you're focusing on a subject, you can focus on that for hours and hours and come up with a whole lot of different ways of thinking, but you prefer doing that by yourself. You're reflective in nature. You journal a lot. You're always writing down. You always reflect on the past and making sure that you know exactly why you did this and understand exactly where you want to be in the future. But doing all of this in a quiet and very private settings, right? So those are our interpersonal individuals. So There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Now, I went through that really, really quickly. This is actually a full training that I actually provide as it relates to individuals and learning more about yourself, and for the entrepreneurs or even just people who want to know more about people. It's good to know who you are, but in a sales situation or in a situation where you're a manager, it's really good for you to know the interpersonal workings of other people. And that way you can become more relating to those individuals. So let's review them again. The 7 learning styles. So the first one that we went through, again, this is in no preferred order. 1, visual learners. 2, auditory learners. 3, kinesthetic learners. 4, logical learners. 5 are social learners. And then 6 are solitary or are interpersonal learners. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been our training for today. I am Tanya Biglow, and I want to thank you for sharing your time and your energy. I really, really love doing this, and I hope you're getting some value out of it. So until the next time we train again, I want to say peace, and now you know why you get so irritated in certain learning situations. And in order to just combat that, just make sure you put yourself in the right learning style for you. Until the next time, I'll talk to you soon.